Hello and welcome to She the People's Women Writers Fest. After a gap of 2 months, we are back with yet another day of new and fulfilling discussions on books and authors, especially putting the spotlight on women and writings by them. Today, we have with us a very special guest, the well known author Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, who is joining us all the way from US. And we will talk about her latest work, her novel titled Independence. A very engaging read, I must say, and I can't wait to discuss more about it with her. I welcome you, ma'am, to She the People.
A total pleasure to be speaking with you this morning.
Thank you. First up, I'd like to talk about the title of the book. The the book is titled Independence. It is not just a coincidence that you've come out with a book in a year that marks the 75 years of independence. So, let's. I'd like you to discuss the title and how the book came about, etc.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this book ever since I wrote my previous novel, The Last Queen, because The Last Queen was set in the 1800s when British power in India was at its height, and the British went through all kinds of really illegal and immoral processes to take away kingdoms from Indian rulers. And they took away Maharani Jinda's kingdom as well, although she fought mightily against them with all her heart. And writing that book made me feel very sad about the way things were in India at that time. So I really wanted to trace that movement to its end when the British were forced to leave India and India finally achieved her freedom. So I think I've been thinking of this book for a long time. And of course, when I was growing up in Kolkata, my grandfather and my mother would tell me stories of their experiences during the freedom struggle. So I think that was also in the back of my mind. And you asked about the title, Independence. The title has two meanings, and absolutely, I wanted it to come out in the 75th year. That has a great meaning for me as well, and I think for readers to look at the story of independence. So the story has a double meaning. One is, of course, the independence of India, the freedom from British rule. And the second one is the independence that the three main characters, the three sisters in this story, they learn through difficulties, through trauma, through tragedy. They learn what independence really means and they embrace it.
Right. So, independence, the word independence means different things to different people. And over the course of the book, the word independence actually means different things, the independence of India as well as the independence that the three sisters find. I'd like to know from you, how has the meaning of the word independence changed for you over the course of your life? What all has different? How have you interpreted independence in different stages of your life?
That is such a very complex question. I think this is true. Independence changes for all of us as we grow older, as we become more mature. I think when I was a teenager, independence from for me meant independence from, the eyes of the parents, independence from the rules that they set around me. And then as I grew older and I started living on my own, going to graduate school in the US, independence meant the ability to stand on my own feet and be confident in myself. And I think now, more than ever, independence has become more of an inner thing. It's an inner freedom, independence from maybe my own bad habits, my own negative thinking, my own tendency to do um, things that are perhaps selfish and harmful to people around me. So now I think of independence as a more spiritual quality. And of course, as far as I can see, that this is the best uh, iteration of independence that I've come across. And in fact, towards the end of the book, the sisters, the three sisters who are the main characters, will learn that independence doesn't mean doing what I want, but it means doing what other people, what would make other people happy also. Independence means standing up and doing the right thing.
Absolutely. So, moving back to the book, and in my own limited learn readings, I would say I found Deepa and Priya, parts of their characters reminded me of a lot of Tagore characters, especially, a bit of Bimola in Deepa from Ghore Baire. I remember that. A lot of it, a little bit of Charulata, but I have seen the film. Uh, Throughout the book, your influence, how Tagore's writings have influenced you, is very obvious. But I'd like you to talk a bit about which are some of your favorite characters, women characters from Tagore, how reading Tagore influenced your early childhood and life.
You are so correct because Tagore is always in the back of my mind when I write. Particularly, of course, Tagore is in the back of my mind as I wrote Independence, because he has written about the freedom struggle. He has written about the British in India. And Ghare Baire is, I think, my favorite novel of Tagore. I teach it, as you probably know, I teach over here in Houston in the creative writing program. And even this semester, I taught Ghare Baire to my students, saying, look at how wonderfully Tagore has managed to give us the woman's voice in Bimola, and how he's managed to uh, give us her way of looking at the world. So, yes, I think Tagore was in the back of my mind as I wrote all of these three sisters. And a little bit of Sharat Chandra is also in my mind because, he is more forgotten, but he was so smart about showing us the position of women and showing us uh, how society kind of limited what was available to them. So I think both of these great Bengali authors were in my mind as I wrote Independence.
uh, Looking at the male characters in the book, personally, the father's character, Nobukumar, who is not part of the book for a very long time. uh, I'm giving away a little bit about the book, but is actually the one who shapes the three sisters and what ultimately they aspire from life. So how important do you think is this? How important do you think it is for women to have supportive, men at home, fathers, brothers, husbands, to be able to do what they want to do?
I think it's very important, and I'm certainly hoping that this book will have at least a little bit of influence in that field. That, first of all, it is to the advantage of society as a whole if women are supported. And if men see that, then that will make that task so much easier for women, that journey so much more pleasant. So, Navakumar, the father, is a very supportive father. And yes, tragedies will occur, but as long as he is around, he is very supportive of each of his daughters in his own way. He tries to find out what are their dreams. He tries to do what they want. Now, there will be a problem because the youngest Priya, who is his closest relationship in the daughters, will want something that he will think she should not have because it will put her on a very difficult path. But he is full of love, and ultimately he will allow her to go in that direction. I also want to point out that there are other figures that are father figures. Once Navakumar exits the scene, there will be another father figure who is not biologically related, but who is very caring about the girls. So I think in our Indian society, we have this advantage over other countries, especially Western countries, in that our families don't just have to be our immediate biological families, close friends. The daughters call him uncle, right? And he truly is like a second father to them after their father passes away. So I want to remember that we have this larger support circle, and we should draw on it. And certainly, this larger circle should also help women achieve independence and achieve their dreams.
Absolutely. So what's interesting for me between the two characters of Nobukumar and Shomnath is that they are the one generation above, yet more liberal than the uh, particular generation of the girls. So would you like to comment on that?
Well, I think sometimes it is just that we need a little bit of age and experience to be able to give. So, to Naokumar and Shumnath, allowing the girls to have their dreams, allowing them to stand on their own feet, and helping whenever they need to, but the staying out of their way also is is important and a little easier because they see these girls as their legacy to the world. The girls are their future. It is harder for men of the same generation, and especially Shumnath's son, to see that because, in the same generation, we often have conflicts. We often have a little tussle of power, my way or your way. And with an older generation, that is not so much the case, or at least that should not be so much the case, because they should understand with their maturity that when a woman becomes independent, when she is able to use her gifts to the fullest, it is the best thing for society because she can contribute so much. And that is one of the messages of the book. In the end, the girls are able to contribute in very important ways to their lives, but also to society around them, to their families, to their village. And that would not have been possible without, a significant amount of encouragement along the way. And I think towards the end, even the younger man in the story, who's is really important, Amit, he will learn that too.
Yes. So, this is this one particular line in the initial pages of your book which really caught my attention. And it says, "When men go off to be heroes, do they even realize what it does to women they leave behind?" Yeah, I would like you to talk a little bit about this. The bravery and the heroism when it comes to men is often celebrated, but women crossing the threshold even is the threshold of the house or whatever threshold is set for them is even looked down upon, or eyebrows are raised even today.
This is true. When I was writing this book, although it is set so many years ago, in 75, 80, 90 years ago, because the women's stories start before independence, this was true. And sadly, yes, I think it remains true. And in different countries, it remains true in different ways. And certainly we see it in India also. Yes, there are so many fields in which men are celebrated when they push past the barriers and they break the rules. Now, for women, breaking rules is still considered a taboo in many places. And we must remember that when we are talking about women in India, we can't just think of women in the major urban centers. That's just a very small proportion of women. This book is set largely in a village, and I wanted to set it that way. My own background, my grandfather lived in the village. I spent a lot of my youth holidays in the village. So I'm very aware that that's a world apart and those thresholds are very high. It's very hard for women to cross them without significant support. So my hope is that as people read this book, they will become aware that those issues that were in the book 100 years, 75 years ago are still issues now. And maybe it will make us think about, well, what can we do to make it a little easier for women to go out there and fight for independence and go out there and maybe, as it is, they will have so many challenges. How can we make their challenges a little easier? How can we welcome them into the larger world? Going back to the Tagore's wonderful novel, Home and the World, Ghare Baire, this is also a story of Ghare Baire, home and the world.
And the world. Yeah. So, uh, one more question here, since we would like you to talk a little bit about your writing process and as an author, your writing corner, because I think a lot of the audiences that listens to our shows like this also want to be authors in making, at least writers, and they aspire to read stuff.
Well, I write every day, except for the days when I go into college to teach. Those are my teaching days. I focus on my teaching. But otherwise, every day I will get up in the morning, I'll do my meditation, and then I will go straight to my writing desk, and I'll stay there for as long as I can. And I think for me, that regular rhythm is very helpful because it helps me to stay in the fictional world. I found that if I'm away from my writing for several days, I tend to fall out of that fictional world. And then I must reread my work and think about the characters in order to get back there. So the best thing for me is never to fall out of that fictional world. And so what I say to my students is create a very definite routine where, as many times a week as you can, you are going to your writing desk for a significant amount of time, at least a couple of hours, because it takes a little while for the imagination to settle down and for the words to begin coming, for the images to be seen. So I think, for me at least, that kind of regularity and prioritization has been very helpful for my writing.
So you've been writing for a very long time, but do you still have a set of people who you bounce the idea of a book with, or first set of readers whom you go to, who are your close knit people and all? Um,
Several support systems, and one is my agent and my agent's office. And interestingly, my agent, Sandra Dykstra, is a woman, and all the agents in her office are women. It just happened that way, at least all the agents that I work with. So when I have an idea, I will email it to them and get some feedback because they're very intelligent readers. I also have a writers group, a small group of writers who at some point years back were all my students, but they have gone on to become writers in their own right, and they are very talented, very smart. And when I have an idea, I will pass it by them also. So I think it's always good for us. I recommend this to everyone to have a small writing group of friends. It's really important for them to be writers. And it's kind of important for them not to be like you related to you or your friends, because it's very hard to get the objective truth from family and friends. But writer friends will give you that.
Right. So, finally, I have to ask you this: what next? What is the next idea we should be looking out from you?
Well, I think for the next one, maybe this is connected to this project also. I want to write a biography, actually a dual biography, a husband and wife biography. So that's what I'm working on. It's very different from me because it's a nonfiction project. And, I'm not allowed to tell
Yeah,
who those people are.
I
So
just wanted a sneak peek
we will
at it.
leave suspense for that. But I've started doing all the research for that because I want to write the story of this couple that I think will be inspirational for our readers out here. So, but that's moving into a whole different field for me, which is kind of exciting.
Finally, before I let you go, one final question is that independence and the story of Indian independence, which is almost, I mean, we got independence 75 years ago. The fight and the is huge. Why do you think even, how would you reinforce that the millennials, the younger generation, should go back and keep reading and remembering this history, and keep it alive in their hearts?
That is so important, and I'm so glad you asked this question because this happened 75 years ago, but the legacy is still around, right? The younger people who have not lived through it or who have not heard firsthand stories from maybe relatives, to them, independence is not that kind of reality. It's not that kind of reality felt in the heart and felt in the gut. I think we forget very easily how much sacrifice went into this and how men and women both fought for it, how many lives were lost. And then, of course, the very sad situation during the partition where so many, almost a million lives were lost. And for what? For what? For just because people were of different religions. And so it's very important to remember our history, first to celebrate, but also to learn a cautionary lesson so we don't repeat the mistakes of history. And one of the beautiful things about our India is it is so multicultural, it is so multidimensional, it is so multi-religious, and that is its richness. And to just remember that, and to maybe, I hope, I pray, to all come together to create a stronger India. That is one of the hopes with which I wrote this book.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. I had a lovely time chatting with you, um, and I had a
My
enriched.
pleasure. You had some great questions, Deepshika. I enjoyed talking to you, and I love She the People TV. I follow you on Instagram